The Greens this weekend put forward a proposal to do just that. We're joined today by Senator Scott Ludlam. Senator Ludlam, thank you for joining us here on To The Point.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Look, Senator Ludlam, you've gone boldly where no one has yet gone on the issue of negative gearing. What are you hoping to achieve with this proposal?
Well, actually, I was listening in before. A whole pile of people have gone there, from economists like Saul Eslake to ACOS to National Shelter. So I guess the reason that we've jumped in at this stage, again, to pick up on one of your questions that Peter, I think you were asking before about why now, is hearing Joe Hockey rule it out flat. Somebody, a journo, put it to him a couple of weeks ago. He said, no, we will not be looking at that. And to me, that just felt immensely counterproductive, and that's why we've put it on the table.
Can I ask you though,
at
Senator,
this time?
Did you consider some of what I was talking about? Did you consider, rather than just removing it, I've described that as a blunt instrument, you obviously wouldn't, but rather than just removing it, albeit with grandfathering already in place, did you look at the idea on the way, before deciding against it obviously, at the idea of perhaps one negative geared purchase being an entitlement that an individual could do, or is that something that you never wanted to canvass?
No, look, we've been researching this for months, or I guess for years actually, before we put this into the mix. One of the ideas that's been canvassed, for example, would be phasing it out. So not grandfathering it, but that you can claim, just for the sake of the argument, 20% less of a concession every year. I think a blunt instrument would have just simply been take it out of the system, not grandfather it, just suddenly remove it. And I suppose the reason why we didn't look at leaving one property in or two properties in is because you're baking in a fundamental unfairness. I've got nothing against property investors or property investment, but I don't think other people who are being priced out of the housing market should be subsidising it, whether it's one property or half a dozen.
This is virgin territory, isn't it, for the Greens? I mean, you guys have had this costed by the Parliamentary Budget Office. You're entering the economic sphere. You're not the fairies at the bottom of the garden, that's the Democrats, but you're sort of seen as being akin to that.
Well, look, that's up to you folks as to how you want to report it. We took a capital gains tax initiative to the 2013 election. We took dozens and dozens of costed initiatives to the 2013 election. If you folks choose not to report on it.
Senator Ludlam.
Next question.
We'll move on.
Moving on. Senator Ludlam, one of the challenges with this is, where do you draw the line? At what point can an individual who, say, invested in property over maybe the past 20 years turn around and say, well, I'm now a business. This is my primary source of income. I'm incorporating, and therefore my next purchase I will be able to negatively gear against the income I get. Is there a point at which you're going to draw a line and say, these people are property developers, these are individual mum and dad investors?
Yeah, I guess the point where we draw the line, which is what this initiative does, it doesn't say you can't write off expenses of running a business, whether you're a landlord or whatever your business is. And it doesn't propose whether it's interest or cost of renovations or, improvements to the house. It's where your business is set up to make a loss. It's where your rental investment is set up to make a loss, and you're asking the other taxpayers to pick that up for you. That's where we draw the line.
We're going to go back to Senator Scott Ludlam, Deputy Leader of the Greens, joining us live out of Perth. Senator Ludlam, can I ask you as a follow-up, something that Anthony Albanese, I think, raised as a not unfair point yesterday. He doesn't mind having a discussion about negative gearing. He's glad that the Greens have raised it, but he just wishes that they weren't so... he argued that you were, in a sense, blocking of development and changes at that local government level, in particular in electorates like his, which is anathema to the idea of clamping down on negative gearing if you want to continue to have available housing stock. Your reaction?
Yeah, I saw those comments and I found them a bit curious. We've done a lot of work with the Property Council in the last couple of years, and they, by the way, are no fans of our negative gearing proposal, but we've got other areas where our interests are pretty similar, on how to do redevelopment and unlock supply so that we're not just considering housing affordability being, miles and miles over the horizon. And there is an element of unfairness that is again being baked into the way that we do urban planning. So, the development industry is pretty unpopular for the way that it has, conducted itself and the way that infill development's been done in the past. We think developing along public transport corridors, not just in the inner city but all the way out to outer metro areas, is actually a way of unlocking significant land supply and bringing services and public transport to the suburbs. And Albo was actually, he was onto some of that stuff when they were in government. So I think there's plenty to work with.
Senator Ludlam, I've got to ask while we've got you here about the debate on dual citizenship. I presume the Greens are not all that pleased with the proposal to strip dual nationals of their citizenship, but could you speak a bit to that and also Peter Dutton's criticism of Gillian Triggs in recent days?
I think it's a really scary way of conducting this debate. This is a proposal to allow ministers, without any recourse to the judicial system, to strip people of their citizenship entitlements and potentially render them stateless. That is really serious stuff. And if you look at, reading Amanda Vanstone's article where she's basically destroyed them this morning for abuse of cabinet confidentiality and abuse of the cabinet style of government, can't help but agree. If it were on a less sensitive issue, it'd be pretty funny. But on something as, with this kind of gravity, it's a really childishly scary way of conducting the debate. And again, on Ms Triggs, I see there's a growing movement to have her nominated for Australia of the Year. I'd be supporting that. I think we need people in positions of, her job is to defend human rights, and this is a government that is systematically abusing human rights. So good on her. And I'd ask Peter Dutton to get back in his box and look at what she's pointing at. Look at what it is that she and so many other people are concerned about.
Senator Ludlam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
on To The Point, and we're going to have to leave it there.
Thank you both.